Hey guys, so I am back to talk about Conquest again. I do want to go over some teams that I was using specifically on the Professor X account because I was able to get Red Crate with it, and as you guys know, it doesn't have Kylo or Rey. So I want to go over the specific team comps I used for certain feats. I'm not going to go over the really basic stuff like gaining tenacity up. I mean, that's going to be pretty straightforward. It's going to be the other ones that are a little bit trickier. And just if I found that I had better success against certain enemies, then I'm definitely going to tell you that. I think it's really crucial to look out for specific enemy nodes in Conquest, specific discs, and specific tech if you're going to take advantage of the consumables, which I think you should. So let's go into the game. So I am sharing my phone screen, which is why the resolution is a little bit smaller, but you're going to get the idea. So we're in the Professor X account, and just for, honesty's sake and being totally transparent with you guys, I'm going to again highlight that he doesn't have Rey or Kylo, so they're not unlocked. They are nowhere near being unlocked once you see the First Order and Resistance teams. So those are the only two Galactic Legends we're working with. You don't even really need Kenobi, in my opinion. Jedi Master Luke does a lot of the carrying in Conquest. But there is that. And then I am going to show you, again, for clarity's sake, you can see Ben Solo right here. If you can see my mouse, we've got 130 shards. So 90 shards from the Red Crate, 20 from the Scavengers, and then 20 from the Conquest Pass. So these are the squads. I just kind of built them, and I'm going to let you know which ones are good for which feats and all of this kind of, fun stuff. So this first one up here is the First Order team that I was using. I decided to do it this way in particular because I really needed Kylo Ren unmasked for the global feat, which we'll get into. But Huck's lead was a lot better for me personally. I was doing this specifically against the Sector 1 Datacron node, which is, if I'm remembering correctly, bounty hunters, and it worked really well. I was using a volatile accelerator disc, a white one, and 3 white amplify agony discs. So they weren't doing as much damage as if they would do if you had better versions of those discs, but it was obviously extremely helpful. And like you can see, Sith Trooper here is gear 11, and he honestly is the one usually surviving at the end, getting all of the kill shots because his damage ramps up. So that's what I was using for the First Order feat for the global, because you need to win 40 times with them. It also doubles when you take crew out as no tank for Sector 1, which you need to do 14 times. And since you need to win 40 times with First Order, you're just doubling up there anyway. And like I said, it's working on the Datacron node, so you're able to get some Datacrons that way. And then the global feat with Crew and Han. Bam Han Chewie is pretty much my go-to. You guys know this for survival feats. And then Vet Han and Crew, you just tack on and mow this down. As long as you've got the volatile accelerator and amplify agony build, it's going to work with those debuffs going out there. And it is so quick and efficient. In my opinion, I didn't do this last time and I should have done it. I would rush this feat if you can, because you can get through, once you've got the discs built up, you can get through this feat pretty quickly. You can walk their stamina down fairly low. Like Bam, Han, and Chewie at one point had, if I'm remembering correctly, 30% stamina. Kylo had 10 every time I took him in, and then he would go down to 0. So he was getting used like crazy. But I would work through that as quickly as you can if possible, only because you're going to get the data disk out of it. And then you can use that to hopefully help you out in some later feats if you need it. So that is that. Okay, so in Sector 2, I was using this team for Resistance, and the reason why I wanted to use this one in Sector 2 instead of Sector 1, which it does also work against the Sector 1 Datacron node, is you need to get 50 resistance kills in Sector 2. So I wanted something that would help me get through that pretty quickly, and a full resistance team was the easiest option in my opinion. And this team in particular worked perfectly against a Bosk-led bounty hunter team, going after Bosk right away. So you're not getting datacrons, obviously, when you're doing it that way, because the bounty hunter team in Sector 2 is not, the bounty hunter team I was going after was not on the datacron node. The datacron node is clone troopers, and these guys were not going to survive it. But I was able to get the kills, and once that was sorted, I could go back and do the other 40 wins, the rest of the 40 wins elsewhere on datacron nodes if I needed to. So again, this was the one that I was using. You can see the bros are still purple. BB-8 is still gear 12, sadly, but they were carrying it, and it worked very nicely. So that was them for Sector 2, and also for the 40 resistance wins that you need globally. Okay, so going back to Sector 1, droid kills, pretty straightforward. I wanted to use the Separatist droids because I didn't want to dig into my non-Separatist droids that I was going to need for Sector 4. So using Grievous here just worked a lot easier. I like throwing Newt in, even though he's not a droid, but that was the most straightforward way for me to get the droid kills done in Sector 1. And again, you need 50 of them. So you can either do that working your way through the nodes or on the datacron node itself if you want to farm the bonuses, whatever works best. Okay, defense up, really straightforward. You're going to take Clone Wars Chewie as your leader, and then 4 tanks. I was taking tanks that I wasn't using on my teams as I was making my way through the sectors, because I didn't want to lower their stamina on the off chance that I won anyway. Usually you will lose or time out. So yeah, the idea here is Clone Wars Chewie lead, and you just pick a team that you will hopefully time out against or get a lot of turns against, and then you just kind of milk it. If I could cleanse with Kenobi, I would. If I could taunt with Bosk, I would. Like anything that would drag the battle on even longer, I would do that just to make sure I was getting the defense up in one try, because you do need to get 40 of them, and if you lose, it's fine, but it's over in one battle. Okay. So Sector 2, you need to win 14 times with no attackers in your squad, and you also need to gain Foresight 60 times. So this is the team I was using: Padme lead Galactic Republic, Grandmaster Yoda obviously for the Foresight, so I could double dip there, and I was doing this against the Datacron node, which is clone troopers, so that way I could farm the Datacron materials that way, and obviously, it's very straightforward. There's no attackers. Excuse me. There's no attackers in this team. They're all support, except Kenobi obviously is a tank, and it just works really nicely. I found, even though I was using C-3PO elsewhere with my CLS team, it was totally fine, even with him having lower stamina than the rest. So you don't need to worry about that if you're going to want to use him elsewhere as well. Okay. This is the team that I used for Sector 2 for Purge. So I got the Purge feat done in 3 battles. I know you can do it in less than that. It just depends on how many Purge itself you're landing. So this is the exact team I used, and I went against a Padme lead team. So you want a Padme team that ideally doesn't have overprepared on it. Which you can find. I found mine pretty early in the sector. It does work against Nest as well if you have a Nest team, but I did it against Padme. So the idea obviously is Emperor Palpatine and then Kylo Ren, just to take the initial hit from them, because he's going to be a pre-taunt basically. So you can use a different pre-taunt, but I just chose to use him. You're going to time out on the battle anyway. You want a volatile accelerator disc just to get the debuff train going, but you don't want Amplify Agony because you don't want to be doing damage to the enemies. So you want to really drag it out as long as possible. I saved this feat specifically as my very last one. That way I could swap my discs off and not have to worry about putting them back on and getting charged energy again or anything like that. So this was the last feat that I did. And like I said, I did it in 3 battles and it was totally fine. So I took Fifth Brother, Seventh Sister, and Second Sister. I wanted Fifth Brother for the AoE, I wanted Seventh Sister for the assists, and then I wanted Second Sister to cleanse the Purge off of them as much as possible as I could, and kind of just get around that way. The other thing that I actually ended up doing with this, because it was my last battle, I still had one battle of tether tech to use. So I had the tether tech on. And because you time out, it doesn't get consumed. So you can just keep using that tether tech. And it worked really nicely because your entire Padme squad is ability blocked. So Anakin is not going to go in and then do his AoE right away on you. You can get in there and start managing it right away and feeding the turn meter train to yourself because of Palpatine's lead. And then it just times out and you go in and do it again, and the tether tech is still equipped and it worked really nice. You don't need it because I was able to do it on my own account without the tether tech. But if you're having trouble, that would be something that I would, think about considering, especially because you will time out. It's not going to get used. So that's totally fine that way. Okay, so that is what I did in Sector 2. And then in Sector 3 for the Inquisitor kills, so you need to get 50 Inquisitor kills, and you also need to gain health steal up. So Palpatine here is going to give you the health steal up, which is why I have him as the leader. Not because you need him as leader to gain the health steal up, but because he's going to feed the turn meter to the Inquisitors. So you want Palpatine, you want a tank. I just almost always use Jedi Master Luke when I need a tank there. Watt to make the tank taunt, obviously. So any of your strongest tanks here, throw the tank tech on them right away, and then you're going to go against the mini boss in Sector 3. The mini boss does not have any AoEs, which is why it is perfect if you have low gear Inquisitors. You don't need to worry about them coming after you. Once you throw the tank tech on your tank, they're going to taunt. The enemy will only go after them if they take a turn. They're not going to take a turn. Usually how it ended up going, Palpatine took the first turn and I just did his AoE and shocked everyone. Or you're going to do his second special and gain the health steal up on everyone. And then that way you're gaining that feat and the Inquisitor kills. The Inquisitors, again, I like Fifth Brother and Seventh Sister. Seventh Sister's just because she assists, I think it's great. And then Fifth Brother for the AoE. Volatile Accelerator and Amplify Agony I had equipped for the discs. And then that way when Fifth Brother did his AoE, they were pretty much all down to the red at that point, and Seventh Sister could just clean them up and get the kills. So you could do this two ways. You can time out if you don't want to deplete your stamina, especially because it's not a Datacron node. It's not going to matter if you win or lose. So you can time out that way, or you can just go for all of the kills anyway and get it done faster. Usually I was timing out because I was also working on Inquisitor wins at the same time, and I didn't want to deplete the stamina. But again, you don't need the win either way, so it's whatever you're comfortable with, however you want to get through feat. Okay. Secret intel in Sector 3. You need to gain this 80 times. And honestly, the easiest way was to use a resistance team, even with like a not fully geared resistance team. I actually did it against a Karth node with Nest, because once you've got just Nest down there, she just gains her bonus protection over and over again. I was only doing pretty much any type of move that would drag the battle on longer once it was just Nest. So I would remove her turn meter with JTR. I would stealth with R2 if I could, or use his burn, like things that weren't doing a ton of damage. A lot of the time, I won't lie to you, these two died, the bros. All that really mattered, though, was getting the secret intel out there and then just spreading it around back and forth nonstop. And then you can get the 80 that way. It took me about 2 battles. You can win. So I did go back and work on it after I had already 3-starred the node anyway. And I was winning even with the bros dying. And it was fine because, again, you need to get the 40 wins as your global feat. So I didn't really see it as an issue for me to win while I was working on this feat either. Okay. So non-separatist droids. So this is in Sector 4. Again, you're going to do this against the mini boss. It's just a lot easier to win with. And then you want to... I used Sortie lead. I had no issues using her leadership. I know some people don't want to put any gear on her. You don't need a ton of gear on her. On my own account, she's gear 8. And it worked perfectly fine. And then HK, just to have another damage dealer there. I was using IG on this account because he's relicked, so I took advantage of that. BB-8 and 3PO. Or 2PO, sorry. BB-8 there is solely to give the speed boost. And again, it worked even with him at lower stamina because you can see I'm using him in other teams across the sectors. So his stamina was always almost 20% less than the rest of them, and it was okay. So he's really just there to make sure Sortie takes the first turn. And then, again, Volatile Accelerator and Amplify Agony. She does her AoE off the bat, and you just follow from there. If you don't have IG-11, you don't necessarily need him. I wasn't using him on my own account. You can sub in a different droid. He's not make or break. 3PO was really great just to remove the foresight off of JTR on this boss because that's kind of annoying, to be honest with you, to deal with her constantly getting foresight back, which is why I put him there, so I could have him to dispel it with his special, and then someone could go over and kill her afterwards. But again, you don't necessarily need him. He just did make it easier, so just something to keep in mind. Okay, the Sector 4 Inquisitor wins. So you need to win 14 times with Inquisitors. So you're doing both of these teams, the non-separatist droids and the Inquisitors, 14 times in Sector 4. So just something to keep in mind when you're going in Sector 4 and working your way through and having your plan. Obviously, very straightforward. You have to have a full Inquisitor team. I really enjoy Fifth Brother lead because he gives them extra survivability. And as you can see, they're all pretty low in terms of gear and stars. Eighth Brother definitely was 5-star during Conquest. Just got the shards to bring him up to 6 stars. So he will be 6 stars next Conquest. But this is pretty much the team going into it. I only swapped mods on Fifth Brother and Seventh Sister, which you can see in my Sector 4 recap. I swapped them there just to make them a little bit faster, but that was it. Otherwise, everyone else kept the exact same mods. Again, Volatile Accelerator and Amplify Agony. I went specifically against a Bad Batch team that did not have overprepared. And then it is a little dicey, and it can get really, really dodgy. Because usually you only have a couple Inquisitors standing at the end. You can also do it against a Padme team that doesn't have overprepared, and that will work as well. I just found that I had better luck against the Bad Batch squad. I had considerably better luck, and it was much more reliable if you use Tether Tech. So you're going to get 2 wins out of it using a Tether Tech. So if you get one on every scavenger node on your way through, and then sometimes you get them in the Conquest Pass. If you buy it, you get them as drops there. And sometimes it shows up in the store. So I always keep an eye out for it. But I ended up using Tether Techs just to make it considerably more smoother because, again, the enemies start with ability block and you don't have to worry about it. And you can go in back to back. You don't have to worry about keeping their stamina up high because they have ability block. And you're using Volatile Accelerator, Amplify Agony. You can just go in and kill them that way. So just something to keep in mind. But that was the squad build, and you can see the gear levels. I just want to be super transparent that way. And you can see Fifth Brother is 3 stars, so they're not doing a whole ton of damage. Okay, Sector 4 Armor Shred. You can do this in one battle. You don't necessarily need Cam. I just have him there because I'm going to take advantage of him. But you're going to bring in your armor shred characters. I did a full Jedi squad with Jedi Master Luke just so that he was the one taunting. If you don't have a full Jedi squad, I would still consider bringing in a taunt with Watt as to give them the tank tech, and then bring in your armor shred characters as well. And all you do is go after Ben Solo. On the mini boss. You cannot kill Ben Solo while the allies are still alive. It's part of the modifier that's on that boss. So I didn't touch the other enemies at all. I did one AoE with Luke to start, just to give them ability block if I could, and then nothing else. It was all basics on Ben Solo, unless I could armor shred with one of the two characters I brought in that have armor shred with Gas or Cam, and then they landed an armor shred. You're gonna time out. I played it manually. You could probably play it on auto. I just chose to do it manually because I wanted to do it in one battle. You will do it in one battle, especially if you're bringing in more than one character with armor shred. So again, only target Ben. He's going to have the smallest health pool by the time this is done, but he won't have died because his allies will still be alive. And you can just keep stacking on the armor shred that way. So again, that's on the mini boss. Okay. Sector 5, you need to have 50 first order kills. And it does work even with really low first order. So once the global crew Han feat was done, which you can get through really quickly, I was able to put crew back on my first order team. So we took out Fox here and added crew. And I kept the Hux lead going. And this works in Sector 5 against a Bosk lead bounty hunter team. So obviously the downside is you're not farming datacrons, but you are going to be getting kills. You will also win, so it's going to count as one of the 40 wins that you need for the global feat. So there is that, at least as a silver lining as well. You're getting both feats done at once. Honestly, zero problems with it. Bosk lead bounty hunter went straight for Bosk right away, just so that he wouldn't taunt and cause any problems. And Sith Trooper is doing a lot of the damage, and you're using Hux and First Order. Just Hux is going to call the mass assists, which is really helpful, but then he's also going to have the turn meter swaps, and First Order officer is going to have the turn meter swaps. And anytime I could, I just gave it to either original Kylo Ren or Sith Trooper, depending who had the lower turn meter, and then that way I could just keep going. Or if I needed to manage, this is another thing you'll want to do. If it looked like Embo might take a turn or Aura might take a turn, I really wanted to have Kylo Ren have his turn up, and if his second special was good to go, I could at least stun them and stop them from wiping me out. So a little bit of management, but it does work pretty effectively. And like I said, you're going to get the full First Order win for your global feat that way, and you're going to get the 50 kills for Sector 5. So pretty straightforward. Okay, this is the last team I have for you. So Sector 5, you need to inflict blind, I think it's 40 times, and gain inspired 60 times, something like that. I need to double check, but you can do it in almost one battle. It's blind 60 times, and inspired 40. Inspired I got done in one battle, and blind I was 5 short, so I ended up getting 54 or 55 of them. So this is the team. You're going to have CLS as your leader, Han, 3PO and Chewie for blind, and then the Resistance brothers. You need both brothers to gain inspired quicker. The only brother that gives out inspired is Finn. So he is the one that's doing it with his special. When you target Poe, he gives it to Poe as well. So, and then that way Finn and Poe can give it back to each other. So that way you're gaining inspired. This was against a Padme team that did not have overprepared. and I took off all of the discs that would do damage. So I only had discs on that gave me protection recovery and discs that gave myself turn meter. So not nothing that would manipulate their turn meter, because obviously you can't against the Padme team. But myself being Ruthless Swiftness was one of them that I stacked. I think I had 2 or 3 of them on. And the idea is to just start going against them. It worked really well against them. It worked really well against a Phoenix team as well. Also, that didn't have overprepared. If you don't have any of those, I would also consider looking for a Nest node, because you can milk it against Nest once it's just her at the end, and get the inspired and the blind feeds done that way with her protection generating. So that is pretty much it. I did end up timing out on it as well, so you're not going to win, but you will get all of the inspired and pretty much all of the blind I got in one shot. So you can pick up the last 5 in another one if necessary. So that is basically it. I just wanted to show you the teams and everything that I was doing on that account, because it did get red crate. The downside, just to be completely transparent about this, and you've probably gathered this based off what I'm telling you that I farmed feats off of, a lot of it was not Datacron nodes. So you kind of sacrifice Datacrons in order to get red crate if you don't have Kylo or Rey as one of your Galactic Legends. So that is something that you're going to want to keep in mind, whether or not it's worth it, whether or not you've bought the Conquest Pass, anything like that. So to be even more transparent, the Conquest Pass was bought on this account. You saw that there's 130 shards on it. I'm not going for red crate the next 2 Conquests. It's going to be gold crate, because we need to focus on Datacrons, and we will get Ben without getting red crate the rest of the way. However, if you do want to get red crate, it's totally possible. So I just wanted to show you which teams I was using, and hopefully that helps you for Monday, because we should have Conquest coming back. All right, guys, that is it, and I will see you next time.